All right, it is 6:38 and I'm calling the meeting of the Board of Education Ad Hoc Budget Procedure Committee to order. Members Ian Thomas, Mike Whitney, and Jen White in attendance. And that is it. So first order of business, the minutes. Anyone have any comments on the minutes? Well, I guess I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes first.
I'll make that motion to approve the minutes.
All right, I'll second it. Any thoughts?
I'm going to abstain because I wasn't present and I apologize.
That's all right. Very well then, seeing no comments. All in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So 2 in favor, 0 opposed, 1 abstaining. All right. And let's see. Next up, well, this is where we get to choose, as our previous agreement, we can just kind of drop in on whichever section we want to talk about. And I'll pull one of the documents up on the big screen. Do either of you have a heavy preference on where on an area you want to drop in on?
I don't have one. We can kind of spin the wheel, but I was wondering if after this meeting somehow, like before the next Board of Ed meeting, we kind of present our kind of timeline. That's not something we really have to approve, I'd say, but yeah, it'd be good.
Okay. Well, Jen, do you have any feelings in any particular direction?
No, but I agree with Mike's comment. Just this way we could give Susan something to sort of pace herself as she's developing her budget. So I agree with that. But no, wherever you guys want to go, I'm okay.
Okay. All right. So yeah, I agree with that too. I think it's good to get the timeline out there, even as draft form. I could reach out to the chair and see if he wants to put just the timeline, the draft that we currently have on the agenda for the upcoming cow. I believe we have one scheduled for the let's see here. Do we have one scheduled for Monday?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so I could reach out to him and see if he wants to put that on the agenda so we can at least get like some consensus from the board on that before we, present it to the superintendent, just to kind of keep things in line.
Yeah, that'd be good. And Jen, last time at the meeting, we also talked about that, the timeline has a lot of stuff that the superintendent and the school system are already doing at that pace. We just put it in there for completeness. So I think the new part of the timeline is like kind of getting out for us on the budget early. Not so much what they do with the school system and the different departments and schools.
Yes. Yeah, just so that when we get our information, we're not getting everything just like on January and then piecemeal. I understand why they did it that way, how it was presented to us last year. And Mike, you weren't part of that process. I saw it was positive intent. It may not just have been, what we needed for that time period. It's just good to have documentation. So yes, agreed. We're not gonna move from our swim lane.
Right. Yeah, this is more just an idea to like have it kind of formalized and understood amongst all parties when we can expect to see information. And, also so that we're aware of what's happening within the administration as things are evolving. That was my understanding of it anyway.
Mhm.
Okay, so, do we want to take another look at the timeline? Just give it a once over and make sure that we think it's a decent draft?
I'd be fine with that. And
Yeah.
I don't know if we need to vote on it, but if you'd like like unanimous consent that we're releasing this to Cal or discussing it, I don't know what we do there, but I'm happy to vote,
Well,
not vote.
I think we would at some point after a quick review here, we could just make a motion to agree to present the draft to the cow and vote however we feel about that. For just for feedback and possible consensus to present to put that forward onto the superintendent's desk so that hopefully we can at least get like the information that we'd like to have earlier and the conversations we'd like to have earlier kind of moving along. I would think something like that. Just basically a motion for presentation and consideration by the cow. Something like that. All right. So are we seeing the document on the screen now?
Yep.
And
yes.
and it's only the document? Or are we seeing,
Um,
say again?
yes. And then like, like the icons to move things around. But
Got it.
yes, the
All right.
document.
Right. You're not seeing my desktop in the background or anything like that.
No.
Okay, very good. All right. So, all right. So any thoughts on this? I basically was in a pretty good place with it, but Jen, since you weren't here, I give you first ups on, any comments or questions.
No, because we sort of talked about it like in that meeting prior to the one that I ended up missing, just um pulling the timeline a little bit to the left. So I was okay with what I saw. I
Okay.
was just more concerned about like, like the November timeline, giving us like a month to review. Um, and then so that we have like a good working document by the time January comes to place. So I was good. Those were like the key things that I wanted to focus in on.
Right. Right. Agreed. And actually one of the things that I think it was in the last meeting that Mike brought forward was the idea of having them like present the previous year's budget with notes as far as like upcoming changes, and then that might expedite getting a draft budget in our hands earlier.
Hmm.
That was one of
Yes.
the things we added into October.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. It's a good idea, assuming they sort of know what's in the budget because it changed. Like this year might be a little tricky, but going forward, like with just so many changes this year, I'm not
Yeah.
sure if the dust has settled by then, by the time, the administration and the principals understand their budget um, and if we have a new business manager outlook, to be fair, even Ray, probably isn't as familiar with the budget. So
Right. Right. Well, we'll throw this out there and see how people react.
Yeah, yeah, and the idea is, and in this situation, maybe they don't know as much about what would be coming for next year, but basically putting in the built-ins that contractual increases, things like that, in that way, earlier in the season, we're building the narrative of what's changing, um, so that we know. So.
yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. All right. Well, with that, I don't have any much to add to the timeline tonight. I'm curious to just get this to the cow and hear the rest of the board's thoughts on it. So with that, I would entertain a motion to present this item for consideration to the cow on Monday, August 12th.
I'll move that.
And
All
I
right.
can second.
All right, so moved by Whitney, seconded by White. And any discussion on that?
Nope, not for me.
No, I'll set.
Okay, nothing from me either, so I'll take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. None opposed and none abstaining. Okay. So I'll email this to the chair and make the request. So I'll stop the share there. And sorry, go
And
ahead.
I do like this approach. You know, we're an ad hoc committee, and we're supposed to report on, but we're giving them the things at the first moment they're ready, which is I really like. So
Glad to hear
gives
that.
gives good time for feedback from them and time to get it in place too.
Right. Okay, so next item of business. Well, one thing I would like to jump into, just take a quick run through is the policies and practices agenda item.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So pull that up.
For next time, we should spin the wheel though. It'd be fun.
I'll have to get a spinner that I can somehow hold up to the screen. All right, so we have attachment number 5 there. And it's pretty much a blank at this point.
Oh,
But
in my paper copy, it's 4. Did it
oh,
get moved?
it might have got shuffled around. This might be
Yeah.
shows up.
Either way, it looks the same.
Yeah. Got it. Yeah. All right. Well, either way, I'll just keep it consistent.
And these are true policies, right? Like Board of Ed policies, either that we want on the books or we'd like to see revised.
That was my intent with this, yes. To have it have the binding power or the whatever we want to call it, like the full authority of the Board of Ed saying this is what shall be done to the best of anyone's ability.
Will we be able procedurally, probably not, sidestep a policy committee? It'd probably like go from here to them or maybe to the cow to them. I don't know how it would work.
I think possibly a way to envision it would be to have it go to the cow first, and then the cow, if no one throws a big flag on any of them, then send it to policy to be vetted. I would consult with the chair on that, but yeah,
Yeah.
one way or the other, I think it has to go through policy and be handled like any other policy matter.
We might be able to do a joint meeting too at some point.
Right.
But
I don't know if that would exceed our 5. Because I would have a double roll.
oh, nice.
Yeah.
One
But
person,
anyway,
2 votes.
I'll consult with the chair on that. But either way, yeah, I think I can safely say that we're all in consensus. We're all agreed that we definitely do not want to in any way bypass the policy committee's role in the process of reviewing and recommending policy.
Yeah, of course.
All right. No
We
objection to that phrasing, Jen? Jen, are you there?
let me see.
I'm on mute. Sorry. No, I'm in agreement that we should go through policy.
Very well then. All right.
We can actually, um, you know how we have administration present? Maybe
Mhm.
they can invite us to present if they want.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, I think, yeah, I'll have to talk to consult with the chair on that and see exactly how we could do that without exceeding or accidentally triggering a quorum of the Board of Ed altogether, because there would be
Uh,
5 board members involved somehow.
yeah, so how many people are in policy? 3?
There's 3, but I'm on both.
You're on both. Okay, so that's 5
That
and we're
would be
9.
5. Yeah.
I think we'll be okay, right?
Uh, we'll consult with the chair and
Yes, okay, yes.
yeah.
I do know that we don't have to worry about as a board just attending a committee meeting and having it all of a sudden being a board meeting because we don't have the same standing.
I think
Um,
it's like no one's recognized as like ex officio. If you're there to present and you don't have any voting power, I think
right.
that is the way we could frame it, and that would, keep
Mhm.
everybody safe, because there'd be no way that there could be 5 members voting on a thing.
Yeah. Or we can, like, since you're already part of that committee, you could sort of present and then Mike and I could just be present and then not say anything. You know how, like,
Right? Yep. Okay.
yeah,
Yep. Yep.
we could do it that way too. So we're just there.
Right.
Or Jen, we should be smart about this and say we totally trust our chair and not be
And
there.
and then not show up. I'm okay with that too.
All right. All right. Well, thank you for the confidence. I will
I
consult with
don't,
our board
yeah,
chair.
I don't see you sabotaging this. So
Yeah, I should
yeah,
think not. I should think not.
no.
Um,
So,
all right. So I was thinking just like not to get too far in the weeds on this, maybe just doing like sort of a broad base, I know I have a column there, policy and title and number, but maybe since I don't have the full policy book out in front of me, and I'm not sure where some of these might fit in, we could just brainstorm on any policies that would be, and my brain kind of goes towards like thinking about like, um, how things are, what practices are being followed as far as dealing with the budget. Um, but we could just do like a broad-based phrasing of what we think the policy should deal with, and then we can come back to it. I could do a little bit of research over the next couple of weeks and try to fill in the gaps and come up with like some actual policy crossovers once we get the ideas of where we want to look at, what areas. How do you all feel about that approach?
I'm okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I like that approach too, because it's going to have to be sort of an overlay because some of the policies, like our ability to have to approve transfers between functions, like come in, I guess. Um, like there's a lot of wording that's directly out of the state statute.
Right, right. So once we get the concept of what we want to handle, then we can go searching for the actual language that deals with it and then just copy, paste, and edit as needed.
Yeah. That said, I do know relatively recently, within the last year and a half or so, there were policies added about how meetings are progress for the Board of Ed,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe that's sort of the entry point where we have like basically how consideration of the annual budget progresses, and kind of its policies that have guidelines of how it should proceed.
Right.
I don't think we have anything like that, honestly.
In regards to the budget?
Yeah, the annual budget. I don't think there's. I mean, we know what our charges and what we have to approve and can argue about how deeply we can go, but um, I don't think, like for instance, there's no timeline beyond
Right.
the town charter time.
Well, in some ways that's interesting. Yeah, because like the timeline could actually cross over with the policy where we could like if the whole board's in agreement with a certain set of you know, uh, benchmarks or check-in points, or like say like the November thing, having a rough draft budget from the superintendent um, for the board to start reviewing individually. in November, just as a hypothetical, say that's something that had a lot of support. And we wanted to vote that in as a policy to require, you know, the administration to always move, moving forward to always have a superintendent's draft budget ready in November for individual review.
Right.
So yeah, like something like that could end up becoming a policy. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, like those that's a key element we think here. And then and maybe something about I heard speak quite a bit of it about, taking different budget chunks, whatever they happen to be, and like maybe meeting on that and voting on it then, like a number for that part, sequentially
Hmm.
go through like other parts of the town government do. And maybe we don't decide that on a policy, but something that's, you know, relatively high level. Um, but
Maybe policy could, oh, sorry, go ahead.
oh no, no, just that it's high level, but still kind of spells out the main steps of the process we want to see. Um,
Right. Okay. So along those lines, I'll throw this out there. What about like it would be like a certain date where the Board of Ed determines the sort of the calendar of how they want to handle the budget. Like which sections do they want to do, in what order? Um, you know, conceiving of like maybe that one cow session that is recessed over a period of days and weeks. Um, again, in past Board of Ed budgets, I've seen like they usually have the agenda items or the objects and the function codes that they're going to handle per meeting already articulated in the agenda. So that's something that maybe the board could look at year to year, saying that at a certain time, we're going to agree that we want to look at the budget in this sort of sequence, knowing that there's a lot of certain parts of the budget that we basically just have to kind of, move right along because they're contractual. Right. So why spend a lot of time on those, get them handled, get them off the table and move on to the areas that may need more deliberation.
Yeah, yeah, and actually, in using the RTM example, where my experience comes from, that setting of that budget calendar, like what order comes, it's a little bit fluid, but it is decided ahead of time. That actually, in that case, is in the purview of the moderator,
Mm-hmm.
um, and and so I'd be okay with that too, open to that as well. But just the simple idea of knowing ahead of time
Mm-hmm.
what it's gonna be, and maybe that does come also in either December or the start of January. The the we lay out that framework of when we're dealing with, they're not really accounts, but different parts of the budget. Yeah. And I'm okay within the policy of not spelling out necessarily what those different breakdowns are. Because I
Right.
can see that changing, as you said, like sometimes we might as well just lump all of this together because the only thing that's in here is planned increases. And
Right.
while other times you might be, we've got to cut several positions within this, or we've got to add because of such and such. Then all of a sudden you want to break that apart. So yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So,
Yes, I I agree with that. And then like years where we have contract negotiations, like the buses or where we sort of don't know, what may or may not take place, we can then isolate um, anything that could potentially change in the future period or in that upcoming year.
right. That's a good point. Yes. All right. So, how do we feel about that little bit of phrasing, just as a thumbnail sketch of the idea, the concept? Setting of annual budget calendar, and then in parentheses, chair alone or in consult with full BOE or F&F committee, among other considerations.
Yeah, I'm good with that. And the funny thing is, we'll have a calendar for setting the annual budget calendar. But it's needed, but that'll happen.
Yeah, it seems a little redundant, but at the end of the day, I kind of like the process flow there is because, yeah, like as we all just said in different ways, every year is going to have different budget parameters and different but kind of contextual factors. So some years, some parts of the budget could move right along real fast, and others, we may have to rearrange things because it is a year where we have to wrestle with a thing.
Yeah, and I think whatever policy we come out with, we the argument probably would be over exactly when to require certain things. But aside from that, I think it'll be written general enough that there'll be kind of general acclaim from this board or any board that these are the elements of what we want. It's just nice to have them codified. It's very good
Right.
to have them codified in the policies of
And
our
I,
board.
and I think naturally, like if the timeline's accepted as is, and we're looking at November as a revised draft present or basically a draft superintendent's budget, in November for the board to review individually, I would think by December the board might be ready to set their calendar.
Yeah, I would think so too.
Yeah.
Um, and whatever timeline we're approving, um, I don't know that doesn't really. I don't know what that is at that point. Is that a policy too, or it seems like that's the kind of thing that could change more often than the policy? But maybe the timeline itself becomes policy, or if we just say that's what we're following this year. I
Let's
don't know.
throw it out there for now as a note, unless you're opposed in some way, Jen.
No, I'm good with the note that you have up there. Um, I did want to put in regards to timeline,
Mm-hmm.
um, and I don't know if this is too specific, but Board of Ed should be complete, have a complete review and approve internal budget a week or 2 weeks prior to presenting um, to the town council,
Mm-hmm.
or or even not the presenting part, maybe submission to the town council. I don't, I did not like it this year when it was sort of changing like on the fly right up
Right.
until like the last minute, because we reviewed everything, we looked at everything, and then like some key components change. I mean, we still knew what it was because they still communicated it, but it's almost like I want to be done like a week before we have the binders printed. We're all in agreement, and if we have to make minor changes, then we put like a insert in there. But it's almost like I'm just like not a last minute person. So I would just sort of like a week before or even maybe 3 days before, but I would prefer a week.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's see. I'll just put a period or period of time. Some period of time. How does that note carry your thought, Jen?
Board of Ed approved by the
Oops.
Yep. Yeah, no, that's fine.
Any objection to that, Mike, being included?
Uh, None at all.
All right.
Uh, I did open up our policy online,
Yep.
and there is it's P3110 budget planning. You,
P3110 budget planning.
yeah, and you can just kind of put it separately there. It's very short. It's like literally 3 sentences, but it says, as a preliminary part of the development of the budget, the Board of Education shall study the school program in relation to the present and future needs of the students in the community. In an effort to make the budget a comprehensive selection of the financial needs of the system, steps shall be taken to involve certified and non-certified staff and the administrative staff in the budget process. The procedure for the involvement of these representatives shall be developed by the superintendent of schools and implemented by the superintendent's office upon the formal approval of the Board of Education. My guess is a lot of that's straight out of their legal
Mm-hmm.
references, which are the
Yeah.
general statutes.
Yeah.
That said, if that whole thing's not verbatim there, the policy is called budget planning. So we could maybe add stuff to that one.
Right, and that's and
Yeah,
a great find. Thank you for looking that up. That sounds like, yeah, we could definitely do a lot of subsections on that, like 3110.1, 0.2, 0.3, and on and on.
Yeah. And it really is just 3 sentences. So
Yeah,
it seems almost like a part of our process. Um,
yes, budget planning. That is kind of exactly what we're talking about here. All right.
and
yeah, I just got there. Oh yeah, adopted in 1990.
Press ready for an update there.
Yep.
and then the other one that this is where maybe we could add Jen's last point. There's P3150 adoption of budget. It's very
Mm,
short again, and it's just saying, hey, we've got to do this annually according to the town charter, and uh, you know, and it's saying, such estimated cost will be the final budget. Um, but maybe that's an entry point, or maybe that wants just to be clean because it's pointing straight to the charter and the process.
right.
And I think there's one more that might be useful.
Well, if
Uh,
you can find them, I'll take them all. I'll put them in here as notes, and we can kind of deliberate as we move forward with this.
yeah, the one more is uh, I don't know if this one's really good for us. It's short again. It's P3113, setting budget priorities. And this is the shortest one of all. Uh,
Sorry,
oh, sorry.
I was
And
just confirming the number.
oh,
Three.
3113.
Okay, got it.
And it says the Board of Education shall, on an annual budget basis, study the school program in relation to the present and future needs of students. Sounds very similar to the other ones, and the community, and establish and approve budget guidelines and priorities for the ensuing fiscal year. Um,
Right.
this really does, and the Board of Education shall initiate this process each year upon final approval of the budget, and shall include its consultation with the administration in the early fall. Actually, that's interesting. I think that sounds like it's after the budget is approved.
Interesting.
That's kind of
Yeah, it's almost like it's in preparation for, so it would
Hmm.
be like the 23, 24 is done, but now we're um setting for 24, 25,
yeah.
like
Yeah,
what we want Susan and the administration to work on.
Right.
during the current budget year, like it sounds like
Yes,
that.
it's
Is that a forward, would you say it's a forward-looking policy to the next budget cycle, or is it making any adjustments to the budget year that they're in as the school year opens up?
it
I
almost yeah, go on, Jen. Sorry.
I took it as forward. I don't know how you guys took it. I took it as forward, like giving her like, hey, this is what we want you to sort of work on in the upcoming. That's how I took it. Mike, how did you, or
Well, because I don't have it right in front of me. I'll have to pull that up here shortly. But no, well, this sort of correlates with one of the things that I wanted to bring forward and on the list. But basically, like, we have yet to actually go back through the budget that has been approved and make any final allocations or adjustments in allocations based on, current state of play. Because
Yeah.
as a Board of Ed, we do have the authority to do that, and the superintendent also has the authority to move stuff within certain parameters without checking with us, but then we have the power to move stuff around wherever we feel it's needed with the power of a vote. Um, and now historically that's never really been done much during a school year. But I know that there was some lingering concerns about some allocations where they ended up in the budget that we approved due to like the last minute nature of the way things came together. And I was hoping that sometime this summer we would, crack open the budget again and, just take another run through and make sure, okay, did we really want to have this amount of percent of spending over here, or do we want to shift this there, shift that there to like help compensate for the imminent realities that we're anticipating. Again, not obviously not increasing the budget, but just moving the monies that have been approved around to make sure they're in the good object and function codes. And I'm not sure, you know, if that's going to happen, but I think it would be a thing we'd want to do before September or as September opens.
Yeah, if they've been doing that, I don't know.
Yeah.
Uh,
Um, maybe this year, but in future years, I don't think so. Like if a budget is developed well and we
Mhm.
all agree upon it, hopefully there shouldn't be any deviation. But this year I can see just because, for instance, in that meeting where we were presenting to the RTM and Dave mentioned he put, I don't know, vacation buyouts with Sam's salary. I
Right.
just
Yeah.
want to make sure that that's fixed, you know? But otherwise, like going forward, I feel like if we're following like the processes we put in place and we're all in agreement, I don't really see a need for it in the future, but definitely this year, maybe.
That's fair. So this is 3150 we're looking at. I
yeah,
gotta pull it up now.
a- and I will say after reading those three things, and this was just by searching the word budget and seeing what came up,
Mhm.
and excluding some others, they're pretty terse and very, very general. And maybe the policy committee, that's for them to decide where to insert what we want to add. We're
Right.
recommending adding, and also to determine what should be added, or voted on by the full BOE.
Oh wait, this is 3113 we're looking at. Sorry.
Yeah, none of them are how-to guides. So I'll
Right.
tell you that much.
And in some ways, I think it would be good to have some navigation, kind of agreed upon in some way that, we can know what to expect to be at certain places throughout the year.
Yeah, and it like for the board. So if you were at Fitch High School, there's a student manual, and I'm sure there's a staff manual. For the Board of Ed, our only manual is in these policies. It has
Uh,
other things in it, but that's why we need to add it, right? Like we need an operating manual.
yep, yep. All right, so I'm reading 3113 now, and I'm seeing the word ensuing fiscal year. So that this is a forward-looking document. Um, so yeah, this would actually support our timeline.
Yeah, yeah, it certainly.
Vague. It's vague, but it could definitely use some specificity. But this is where I would think the timeline would fit, would be a subsection to this.
Certainly could.
Yeah. Or it could possibly, yeah.
And the
Um,
superintendent doesn't like those 1990s. He likes to have everything looked at.
well,
So that's good too.
that has been
maybe we
this
could,
year.
maybe we could make a recommendation to the policy committee to review all of the items.
Well, maybe that's what this document
Yeah.
becomes.
Yes.
It's like a whole
Yeah.
series of referrals.
Yep.
I mean, from
And
this committee to that committee.
Yeah, that would be kind of the structure of our recommendation to review
Right,
at least these 3, and then we can direct them in what we think should be added somewhere, either as a new policy or to one of those.
right, right. All right. Um, okay, so yeah, I think based on our conversation, I'm not gonna necessarily put down the thought that I just had about, opening up the budget that's just been approved and like making allocation adjustments, because I agree with you, Jen, that if we have a thorough, rigorous process as described in what we've got drafted so far, and hopefully enhanced as we go forward, then I don't think it would be necessary to have that look back. Um,
Yeah, it's an
Oh,
as really needed basis because
right,
it
right.
it could have the unintended consequence of like hiding changes from whoever, students, parents, staff, um, the
Well, yeah,
general
it could be used as a dodge to avoid uncomfortable conversations with the public.
yeah, or just delay them. I mean, um, yeah, it's kind of like this is the budget we voted on, and everyone recognizes things changed through the year, but we wouldn't want to. No one would want to see an overhaul. Uh,
Right.
um, but I mean, sometimes you have to. If you change one thing, you have to change others. It's the
Right.
reality. Like,
Well, we also, yeah, well, anyway, that's another conversation. But agreed, yeah.
I
So,
yeah.
go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I guess to summarize, in that sort of thing, I'd like it to be more responsive uh,
Hmm.
to situations rather than a new round of strategic uh, planning or
Right, because
enact.
we could vote ourselves that authority in emergencies if there's some need to do
Of
it.
course,
No.
we've got it. We've got it anyway. If that's
Right.
clear.
So that's like that's the fire alarm on the wall, break glass in case of emergency, that.
Yeah.
And there it should remain. If it's ensconced in policy, then it becomes a tool that people can plan on using. It should be like a ripcord for the spare parachute,
Yeah,
only extreme cases.
and in the general statute they reference there, it even has that within it, the emergency part.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
All right. So, another policy I'd like to see discussed has to do with like communications regarding budget concerns. Um, and to be as diplomatic as possible, um, information was at a premium in a highly condensed timeline this past budget cycle, and certain communications did not come forward in a manner that I consider timely. Um, so I would like to see some kind of policy that speaks to um, requiring the chair or any administration who's having conversations with, say, town personnel regarding budget items, that these communications must be documented in email and shared with the board prior to finalizing a budget.
can can we um,
And
approach that by like every time we have a regular meeting, we
mhm.
have reports from each.
Communications and reports, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Well, this ties into something else I've been talking to the chair about, and I'm a little disappointed we haven't had it on the agenda yet, because I was under the impression it would come forward. But one of the things I want to do with this committee, when I first drafted this agenda before our first meeting, um, I had communications and reports as an agenda item. And I was told that should be a whole board-wide consensus, that that's the thing that we're going to do inside committees. Because if I do it in one committee, then other committees may be expected to do it.
Was it just that, or was it also the public comment? They're
Both,
two separate things.
both plays drew flags. Um, and but I'm looking at them as separate issues at this point. But I'm also a full proponent that well, I think there should always be an availability for public comment. I think there should always be an availability for communications and reports, because everything is fluid, you know, and yeah, so I maybe that's the way it could be handled, because maybe that's the reason we didn't hear about it, is because there was no place on the agenda to share it out. Um,
Yeah, that would certainly be a place where that could come forward. But if we are having these like open cow meetings, say like one session to the next for the budget,
Hmm.
at the start, it was not at the I don't even know if it's called reconvening. Maybe it is. At the start of each one of those, it should specifically be like superintendent and chair, or superintendent slash chair, um, communication reports. Like that should just be that's what you start off with each time we come back. Because they're the only ones we have no standing whatsoever to, as individual members, to talk to the. I mean, we can talk to the town manager or someone else, but it doesn't have any standing in terms of the BOE.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like at the end of the day, like the people that could in some way speak for the Board of Ed or the needs of the district would be the superintendent and the chair.
Yeah, and maybe the associate chair too. So it actually might be board officers. Um, and actually, maybe it's broader because you want the finance director too, right? Because they're talking through different lines. But
Right, and the assistant superintendent could maybe get pulled in if the superintendent's absent for some reason. Uh,
yeah,
yeah, so I'd say maybe board officers and administration for of all communications that board officers and administration may have with town officials regarding budget concerns.
yeah, and it could just be you might not even need the. You could just have like report from. I mean, the report in communications is nice because it's already, or communications report I think is already in different places. But if people are going to push back at that, then just a straight up, report from, because that gives the chair or superintendent time to frame the upcoming meeting. But it also gives us time to ask, hey, uh, did you talk to anyone recently? Is there anything we should
Right.
know about? And
Any possibilities of funding here?
yeah,
That's
and,
yeah.
and they'll answer. They'll give an answer.
Right, but I guess also the other thing that concerned me was that there was at times like what did eventually get relayed to us were verbal conversations that asserted one position that then were refuted by emails that documented another situation.
Yeah, the nice thing is at that point, um, you've got it like here in a meeting. It would be documented, at least that viewpoint.
Right, but I guess what I'm trying to get at is like if there's any verbal conversations that are happening about like real possibilities,
Yeah,
then they need to be memorialized after the fact with an email that's confirmed by the other parties in the conversation.
I don't think, can we require that? I mean, even as a board,
I
you're
want to have the conversation.
I wouldn't want to be that chair that is fearful that I didn't record any
Well,
conversation email. I mean, I think it's
this
smart
is
to.
happened to, I mean, this is, I mean, I'm sure we've all done it in one way or another during our own professional lives where like you have a verbal conversation with a supervisor or subordinate and you come to an understanding of how something's going to happen. And then just to make sure that everyone's clear on it and that you can easily share that understanding with other people, you send an email saying, as per our conversation on this date at approximately this time, it's my understanding that this, and this are possible or being considered or are no longer available, something like that. Just a simple like follow-up email, 1, 2, 3 bullet points of whatever was discussed with whatever the conclusion of the conversation was. And then to have them, please confirm my understanding so that you're asking for a positive reaction to say that from the other parties who are in the conversation saying, yes, that's a valid understanding of what we discussed.
That's hopeful.
That's
That's
cool. Yeah. And if they don't respond, do we assume
there's no understanding.
there's no understanding?
Right. That's
Okay.
that's fair, I think. I think it's fair. I think it's a fair thing to ask because, you know, at the end of the day, that's it's a lot of responsibility, you know, for the superintendent and the chair to have these conversations with on behalf of the board, essentially. And I'm not trying to be hypercritical. I'm just trying to be thorough and conscientious and thinking about what do I do in my professional life when I'm having, you know, conversations are that are impactful, that need to be, everyone has to be on the same page when the conversation's done. That I'm going to have to go relay this information to somebody else, and they're going to be carrying out these actions on my word, and it's my responsibility, you know? Like I want to make sure that I have a firm understanding of what the situation is, what's being expected to be done and when. Right? I mean, that's a professional level of conduct. I mean,
It,
I'm,
no
am
one
I
could argue with that.
okay? So that's where I'm coming from, right? So, I mean, I'm sure you've both done it, right? Like you've been in that
Ye-
situation.
Yeah, but and since okay, we'll put it in. I can support this, but the execution of it, I'm not necessarily sure if it will be done all the time because if they're meeting in passing rather than a formal meeting, then I don't want like either board chair or superintendent to be like, oh yeah, no, I need to send out an email all the time. You know what I mean? Like I don't
Right,
to be a burden, right?
right. However, like I do want to avoid the idea that something that's said in the hallway in passing is taken by one person one way and another to another, and then, you know, our whole body acts in a certain way based on a hallway conversation that was, you know, um, seen two different ways, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and because, you know, if it's a conversation that they're gonna, I guess that's if it's a thing that they're going to use as guidance for the board to act upon, it has to be confirmed in documentation.
So actually, what you just said there, that last sentence,
Mm-hmm.
um, that's probably a separate, like a separate point. It's important enough to have that.
Mm-hmm.
Like you just said, if the guidance that the board is going to act upon has to be, you know, documented, in written form, right? And that could be anything. That could be, we don't have um, a feel for how much oil is going to go up yet, but um, our so and so analyst told us it's going to go up, projected to go up between this and this, right? Or it could be something more contentious, like for instance, the nurses, which I assume is on all of our minds.
I appreciate you saying that that's a separate item, Mike. Good point.
Because it really gets down to, you know, what you're trying to have is have us have a firm, um, open foundation for what we're building major budget decisions on.
Right.
That's that's what we're looking for.
Exactly.
And in my feeling has always been, whether it turns out to be accurate or not, it's more important that it's laid out there in an open way, publicly available way, so that um, that jibes with the democratic process.
Right. Exactly. All right, so does those two notes kind of capture the essence of what we just discussed? Mm,
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we might reflect on it and kind of
yeah,
smooth it out,
Yeah.
yeah,
but
exactly. These are just thumbnail sketches of the
Yep.
concept.
yeah, you
Yeah.
add please or something,
Uh,
or no disrespect, but
that's
things like
what-
that.
that's what we have multiple minds in on this.
It's almost like we won't do anything unless we get a work order. No, I'm just
Yeah,
Actually,
purchase order. Yeah.
yeah,
kidding.
actually, it's very
Yeah,
similar. So yeah,
Right. There's a direct parallel there,
there
Jen.
you go.
yeah,
Um,
that's a good point.
yeah. All right.
Like,
Well, those are the two hot button items, and I appreciate. I think we have a good start here on this document. Is there anything else anyone else wants to throw in on?
I think that's great. A great way to
hmm
tackle things today. So,
Okay. All right. So,
and we'll keep
now,
working on this one, right? We're not sending this out to
oh
public.
yeah, no, this is
oh
still
yeah,
work in
no.
progress. In fact, so I'm gonna save it, and this is version 3 now. Um, all right. So, what do we want to do next? We
It is
did.
7:30.
It is 7:30. It's been an hour. I was late. That's on me. So I'm not gonna hold you all any further. So I would be glad to discuss the date of the next meeting.
All right.
Yep. My
Um,
calendar.
I can firmly say that the 22nd is gonna be out for me. I'm gonna
Okay.
be in transit uh that day, so I'd rather not commit to that day. That's the 2 week mark.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we also have a lot of I got some research and writing to do to really kind of flesh out some of the stuff. Plus, I still have yet to dig out the notes on the budget software from my budget session binders. Um,
Oh, the software part.
yeah, yeah. So I wouldn't
Yeah.
mind having an extra week as my school's on recess actually the last week of August. So I'm gonna have some time leading up to the 29th where I'll be able to kind of dig into my books and binders and things.
You
And
might want to hold off on the finance software too, just to once we find out what the finance director search update timeline is. So,
yeah,
Yeah.
oh,
They have first round interviews on Tuesday and Wednesday.
oh,
oh,
good, good.
Yep.
wait, we have more candidates in play?
I don't know if there are more, but I have a list of candidates that we're reviewing for Tuesday and Wednesday.
Okay.
Oh, are you
Well,
Yeah.
involved?
Yes,
Awesome.
I'm sitting in on the first round, and I don't I'm assuming Dean's probably sitting in on like the final, like from a finance perspective, and then like I'm assuming other administrative staff is going to be there too. Yeah,
mm,
because so so at least I know that. So hopefully we'll be close. I'll let
okay.
yeah.
Well, that's great to hear. I'm glad to hear that things are moving forward. Um, yeah, so I was kind of looking at the 29th as the date of good possibility.
I'm okay with that. I'm moving my I would have not have preferred the 22nd either because that's the weekend right before moving day for my son. So I was being selfish.
Well,
So the
no,
29th
no,
works.
listen, remember when I said I was going to be in transit?
Yeah.
Same
Oh, you're
deal here.
talking. Yeah.
Same deal here. We're going up to Maine, so.
I I just want to point out the 29th is the first day of school, and so for us
Oh.
school age kids.
Oh, that's for you.
But I think
We'll
they'll
give
be
you
okay.
How passe?
Well, we shouldn't make next meeting a Zoom one so that we could give you like a refresh packet. Here, Mike.
So so seriously though, like I
No.
could probably do that 29th. That is first day of school.
Got it.
And I'll be I think I'm away at the end of that next week, that 4th, 5th, and 6th, but I'll
Yeah.
probably be around on the 3rd and the but so if we want to go for the 29th, we can go for it. And yeah.
Okay. Well, I appreciate the accommodation. I know that, yeah, the first day of school, I wasn't even thinking about that, to be honest. So, I mean, if you think it would be a big hindrance, we can definitely look at something different.
No,
I
just
mean,
I don't know, might be good. It's not
there's
me
no
going to school.
reason that we have to stay like married to Thursdays either. I mean, if we really wanted to, we could bump it to another day of the week, like
I
a
think we'll
Wednesday.
don't we run into other committee meetings on Wednesdays, and that why this is clear air?
I thought Tuesday, like finance and facility and policy typically meet on Tuesdays.
Oh, okay.
On Tuesday, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But it's
so
only once a month, so it's not really
right, and you had yours already this month, right?
correct.
And policy just got canceled because I think they realized that the state is working on stuff that the anyway. Um, so we could do Wednesday, but that's the day before.
No, the day of is better for
Day
me.
of is better, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we'll stick with the 29th for now. 6:30 is still good.
Yep.
Hmm.
Yeah. All right. Would just throwing it out there, would a 7 o'clock start time be too late for you all?
I'm
Or
okay with it.
a little more buffer time?
For me, I start to run into Zoom bandwidth at the house because I see another Zoom thing going out.
Got it, got it. Okay, never mind then. We will retract and stick with the 6:30 time.
But that would be the last time it would be a problem.
Okay. Sounds good. Sounds
Yeah.
good. Yeah, I think case in point tonight, I think 7 o'clock would be far more sustainable for me moving forward. Now having done this a few times, 6:30 creates a massive crunch. Um, it's achievable, but it gets really
Hmm.
tight.
Um,
Um,
I'll I'll
Would
just say
6:45? Oh, sorry. Go on,
I was
Mike.
just gonna say that, Jen.
Yeah, okay.
45?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do that. We'll do August 29th at 6:45.
Yeah,
There you go.
perfect.
Perfect, yeah. That works
Unless
for me.
that's not enough time. Is like I'm not really sure. Is that 15 minutes will help?
It does actually. Like, yeah, that was about the time I actually got to sit down tonight, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that worked out. Yeah, that should do the fine.
Yeah. The way it was fine for us. It was a kind of a soft opening.
Yeah. Well, all right. So that with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
I
Aye.
Aye. All right. Zero opposed, zero abstaining. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.